Hello and welcome to the Work for Change podcast. My name is John with the silent H, and as you can tell, I am not joined by my lovely co-host, aka my brother, Jean. He's not going to be on this episode. We weren't able to get together this week to be able to film, but it is all good because I actually have a really cool guest that I'm super excited for you guys to listen to. This is someone that I've been trying to get on the podcast for quite some time, and it's someone that's actually, he's been a friend of mine. I've actually made videos with him. So we have Spencer Nadolsky, or Dr. Nadolsky, here on the podcast today. He is actually an obesity and lipid specialist physician, so someone that knows a lot about the obesity epidemic. We talk a lot about obesity in America and just kind of around the world, the repercussions of that, just a lot of stuff that I am very interested in, and I think you guys will see that in the episode. It's a really good one and one that I'm really excited for you guys to listen to. Before we get into that, I do want to say if you guys want to follow Spencer, I will make sure that I will put everything in the show notes so you guys can do that. It's just Dr. Nadolsky, Doctor, so DrNadolsky on Instagram, and you guys should really check him out. He makes the best memes in the world on when it comes to weight loss and stuff like that. I really think if you're interested in this stuff, you'd think he's very funny. And if you agree with a lot of the things that I agree with, then you'll probably like him a lot. But without further ado, welcome to episode 69, Not Making That Joke, of the Work for Change podcast. So we are here with my friend Spencer Nadolsky, Dr. Spencer Nadolsky. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We did a video, it was almost a year ago now.
Almost a year.
And so Spencer lives in San Diego.
Literally 25 minutes away.
And we're always like, let's hang out. Let's do this. Let's film this. And it never happens. So we're making it happen today.
And you flew in early just to make it happen.
I did. Oh my gosh. So I was in Miami for Wadapalooza. It was great. And honestly, like, I'm not going to let the travel back ruin the experience, but wow, what a nightmare. Like, I was supposed to fly last night and get here last night at 11 p.m.
Yeah.
That was the plan. My flight left at 8:30 there.
Get your beauty sleep.
Yeah, I had to get my beauty sleep, and then we were going to meet up. But then I get to the airport. I'm on the plane. We have boarded. Everyone is sitting down, and they say, hey, there's a leak in the left side engine. We're going to see if we can patch it up, or if it's no big deal, we'll let you know. 10 minutes later, and I'm great. Like we've been sitting there for about an hour.
Oof.
10 minutes later, they say, pack up your stuff. We're not going to fly. And I'm like, okay. And then I was like, maybe they'll like just push it a few hours, or we'll just get on another plane. They say, you're not leaving until 5 a.m. the next day. So I was like, okay. By that time, it was already 10:30. And I was like, you could, so they said, go walk to this gate. There's customer service, and they can get you situated with like a hotel room or whatever. I walked there. The line was unbelievably long, right? And there was a food place right next to it. And I was like, I'm hungry right now. I'm not going to wait in this line, and then this place closes, and then I don't have any food. So I was like, I'm just going to eat dinner, I guess is what it was. And then I'm just going to chill at the airport, because like it's only like 5 hours now after I was done eating that I have to wait. And so that's what I did. So I waited until 5 a.m. and then it was a nightmare. And again, it's just funny. I'm not even mad about it. Like truly, it's totally fine. But then at like 4:45, they say, hey, one of the flight attendants is late, so we're going to have to push the flight back again. Oof. So then it got pushed back until 5:30. But then we finally got on the plane. But then, so we flew here. Luckily, I was able to sleep on the plane, so I'm not super tired right now. Because if I normally never can sleep on a plane. Like,
yeah, I don't know how you did.
I honestly, it's just because I was so tired. Like, because that whole time I was waiting at the airport, I couldn't fall asleep because I was like on the floor, super uncomfortable, right?
Ugh.
And then
it's like my nightmare.
It was bad. But then when we landed, the guy came on the. Can you just move that a little bit closer to your face? Yeah. The pilot came on to the intercom. You could tell he was like, I feel so bad. But when we got there, no one knew we were there, so there was no one to like put the little thing on the plane so you can walk out. So we had to wait on the runway again, and then I finally got out. But it was just like, this has been the biggest travel nightmare I've ever had. And it's a good story now that I can tell. So
yeah, it makes people not want to travel.
Yeah, it's funny because I actually had some people message me that were like, literally like, I think it was 3 people. They're like, I'm a flight attendant for it was American Airlines that I was on. And they said, this always happens in Miami. So apparently it's like a normal thing.
Not going to Miami.
Yeah, but I think because the weather more like than because like we just got unlucky, I think, because it was the plane that had an issue. But I guess because the weather in Miami's crazy, it's like thundering and then it's not, and it's raining and it's not, and it's pretty all over the place. But yeah, I was just like, honestly, I could have been super upset about it, and like a lot of people were, and I was just like, there's nothing I can do. And I didn't even try and go to talk to the customer service and get like a free meal or get a free flight. I was just like,
not worth it.
It really, seriously, it wasn't worth me being upset about it. I was like, you know what?
It's a good look at that attitude. Good outlook on life.
Very inspiring. It was funny though because I was actually wearing. So Noah Olson is a games athlete, and he just started a clothing line called Happy But Hungry. And I bought a sweater that when I was there that just says Happy on it. And I was like, I can't wear this sweater and be a jerk. So it was almost like the sweater made me feel better about everything. Okay, so that's enough about me. We have a guest on, and I'm telling about my all of my problems. So you are an obesity medicine doctor, is that correct?
Specialist, obesity specialist. Yep.
Okay.
So I started off, med school. Then you go to a residency. You can pick a residency. I did family medicine. You can do internal medicine. You can do a few other types. Didn't do surgery. It's only medicine. And then specialized in obesity medicine, and actually just took boards in something called lipidology, which is like a cholesterol specialist as well. So kind of like a cardiometabolic specialist, but help a lot of people lose a lot of weight.
Yeah, so like basically, and like if people don't know, if they follow you on Instagram, you're the meme master,
the meme doc,
of especially of like weight loss stuff. For
right,
sure,
right, fitness and weight loss.
And you guys, if you don't follow him, you 1000% need to do that. That is something you're missing out on. But so a lot of what you talk about is helping people lose a substantial amount of weight.
Yep,
right?
And even small amounts, but up to a substantial amount.
Yeah, up to a substantial amount. But what I really like about your posts, and I think that what is important about people kind of understanding is like they might see what you'll say, and it's very a lot of times it might be kind of polarizing, and it's very like short and to the point. Yeah. But a lot of times a lot of people don't read the captions that you'll write out.
It's a problem.
And but I think that it's important because it's like that thing that's like, oh, it's not like it's shocking, but it's like it gets in people's face and they see it. But I think that's important because especially in the weight loss space, I've been in it for 7 years now. I've had my weight off. Like there's so much information, which is a good thing. But again, like we've all heard the paralysis by analysis.
Yeah.
Like that's a huge thing especially when it comes to losing a lot of weight.
My meme the other day with what people think they need to know is a huge book.
Yep.
And then what they really need to know, a tiny little
It's so true though. Yeah. And that's the issue is that people don't want to believe that it's that simple,
Yeah.
And so has that been like something that you've had to combat a lot, like with like patients that you've worked with and stuff like that?
Yeah, patients and followers. It's always, what do you think about this special intermittent fasting technique? What do you think about keto? What do you think about these supplements? And really, it's like, look, I'm not just going to say eat less, move more, but energy balance is the simplicity of it all. You do have to burn more calories than you take in. Simple as that. Now, the complexity would be, how do you actually make that happen? How do you sustain it in a way that you're not miserable? But that's literally it. And so everybody, we call it majoring in the minors, the minutia. Should I eat 4 meals a day? Should I eat 7? Should I eat 1 meal a day? Should I skip a day? And it's like, well, whatever it is that gets your energy balance lower, is what we're trying to figure out. And for you, it may be different depending on your lifestyle and yada, yada, yada. Yeah, absolutely.
So I have a question for you. So
I put up
a meme. It's not even a meme. It wasn't a meme actually. I guess it could be considered, but it was just a Twitter thing that I put up and then I put it on my Instagram.
Okay.
And so this is what I said, and
I'll put in my monocle and see if it's a good.
Yeah. So I'm curious because there was this. So this post has 368 comments, and most of those is people arguing.
Oh wow!
Right.
Yeah.
So and that's a lot for me. A lot of times I'll get like 10. You know what I mean?
Which
is
good.
Fine. So what the tweet says is, I promise you are not losing weight because you are eating too little calories, or I guess I should have said too few.
Whatever.
Little, that isn't correct. But
whatever.
and then
we get the point.
In the caption, what I wrote, which I don't think a lot of people read, this is what I said.
Okay.
So probably one of the most infamous myths about losing weight. The reason you are not losing weight is because you are not in a deficit, not because you are in too much of a deficit. And I said, this is one of those hard to swallow truths, the hard to swallow pill meme.
Yeah.
But true nonetheless. I will ask you, when was the last time you saw an obese, starving person? Most likely, you are not correctly calculating the calories you are consuming on a daily basis, or your cheat day or weekend is doing much more damage calorie-wise than you think. And then I said, there are obviously outliers here that have conditions that make losing weight harder, but no matter what, you need to be in a deficit to lose weight. Don't let people trick you into buying into their easy weight loss schemes.
Yeah. So what were the arguments against that? Like, I don't even know how. I do know how people, because they say it all the time, and I make memes about starvation mode, because what most people think starvation mode is that you're eating so little that your metabolism goes down to where you start gaining weight or you stop losing weight. So I have patients that are like 250, 300 pounds. I'm eating 1,200 calories and I'm not losing weight. And it's like, that's impossible. Absolutely impossible. Because if you adapted to that 1,200 calories, you'd be very lean, very tiny. You'd be starving and tiny. So most of the time they're just eating way more than they think. And I can always figure it out. And again, so what were the people arguing?
So the arguments were, it was a lot of women, women coaches that were saying, I've worked with a lot of women. And again, it's when that argument comes up, I'm like, I feel like I'm obviously not a woman.
You're not
and
gonna
so it's like,
you don't
I don't want,
mansplain,
no, seriously though, that's what it is. Like,
no, I know.
I'm not trying to sit here and argue with someone and say like, I understand women better than you do. Like, especially if it's like women that's arguing with me, know?
Right, I understand.
But a lot of it was like, they're, I've worked with plenty of women and they're eating so little calories. Their hormones are all messed up. And then we up their calories and then they're losing weight. But I didn't even sit there and argue with people. I just kind of let it happen in the comments, because my point of it wasn't to sit there and argue with people. But from what I've seen, that's you, all right?
Yeah, that's me. No, that's me. Just kidding. I'm projecting.
I mean, kind of.
I'm
I do like to. I like to see people's thoughts.
Yeah.
Because I do think that there were some good points against what I said. Again, I still believe what I said, and that it doesn't change how I feel. Maybe I'll word things differently next time. But
never say anything perfectly.
Yeah, seriously. But so a lot of people were basically saying that their hormones are messed up, and I mean, I'm sure that that's probably an issue. But what my whole point is like, okay, yes, maybe their hormones are messed up, but it's not like now you put them in a surplus of calories and they're losing weight. No, you might up their calories and then their energy expenditure gets more. You know what I mean? They're moving more or something like that. Like, it's not like, oh, now they're in a 500 calorie surplus and they're losing weight. That's the whole point of what I was trying to say. No,
and you're absolutely correct. I make this post probably once a week or every other week, and I find some sort of meme to go along with and kind of stick it to them. One time, just last week or 2 weeks ago, I made the one on menopause. And so that's
I saw that.
And the thing is, like, I made sure to in my post, the caption, I made sure, because I made that post a couple years ago and didn't write enough about it, because what I basically said was, and I don't know if you can throw this up on the video, but women in menopause going, oh, I just can't lose weight, and yet they're basically drinking a bottle of wine per night, and it's a bit in your face, and it's a bit aggressive. But so in the caption, of course, I'm it's like, you're a man, you're never gonna. And there are a few of those comments. You're a man, you're never gonna go through menopause. You don't know what it's like. It's like, no, I know that, but I've treated hundreds of women who go through menopause, and the biggest thing in menopause is it's not the hormonal differences that make the fat loss difference. It's the hormonal differences that cause irritability, hot flashes, lack of sleep, which completely change how much you're moving and your ability to want to eat in a certain way. It's not the actual hormonal difference. The hormonal differences with the decreases in estrogen, it can have a change in what's called nutrient partitioning, where you store fat. So if you're not using hormone replacement therapy, which we don't use it for fat loss purposes, we use it just for symptom relief. Around 50 years old, you're going through these changes. If you don't use hormone replacement therapy, you can have some increases in the visceral fat, and that's just the fat that's surrounding your organs. Thought to be why men may have cardiovascular disease earlier than women. But those changes in hormones aren't going to all of a sudden cause you not to be able to lose weight in a caloric deficit. It cause you to have obesity all of a sudden, change you so that you cannot lose weight. And so whenever anybody says it's the hormones, I go, okay, explain to me exactly the mechanism. And that's what I always like, because I've done lectures going in depth because of these myths that are out there, going in depth of each hormone and why they are not going to stop you from losing weight. Now, there are some true, what we'd call pathological conditions, such as something called Cushing's syndrome, Cushing's disease, where you have an increase in cortisol, either from your pituitary gland, you have a tumor that's telling your adrenal glands to make too much cortisol, or if you have a tumor on your adrenal glands that's making too much cortisol itself. And yeah, it's extremely rare. It happens, you see them in the endocrine clinic from time to time. I've screened for it many times, but I don't find it that often. So there's things like that. And then there is hypothyroidism, but it's still, if you're treated and you have hypothyroidism, first of all, hypothyroidism, so it's just low thyroid. And I actually have it myself. I was diagnosed when I was like 24-ish, and I'm on replacement. And I always laugh because I'm like, I still had abs at the time, whatever. And then people are like, oh, just because you had abs doesn't mean it's hard. It's like, I know, I'm just saying that. So hypothyroidism, the thyroid is a big thing that controls our metabolic rate. So if your thyroid's low and it's not diagnosed yet, yeah, your output of calorie expenditure, energy expenditure is going to be lower. But once treated, it's pretty much back to normal. And there are a subset of people that once treated, there may be on a cellular level. That's why we made these diet templates that adjust the caloric intake for that purpose. But when people say they're eating too little and it's screwing up their hormones and so they're not going to lose weight, here's the problem. They just don't know what they're talking about. And if you ask them to clarify and explain specifically, they'd be like, haha, it's the hormones. Yeah. And like, what do you mean? To explain. It's my hormones. And I'm not trying to be a jerk, because it's like I literally treat these patients daily.
Well, you're trying to help them.
Right. And so, actually there are a lot of people that commented that had gone through menopause, like, yes, I realize what you're saying is correct. There were one or two people that were a little bit upset by it and were like, not all people that go through menopause drink wine. I'm like, I know. It was literally like a joke. And they're like, you're making fun of alcoholism. I was like, no, absolutely not. Considering I also treat patients with alcohol abuse disorders and substance use disorders. It was because when you go through menopause, you feel like crap. And so you're like, maybe I just need to drink some wine to take the edge off. Whereas, you should see a doctor, because if you're having that bed of symptoms, then that's where hormone replacement therapy could help you feel much better, not have the hot flashes, help you sleep a little bit better. And then there's also the benefit of the fat storage and some of that stuff, while helping you stick to a better diet and exercise routine. Anyway, sorry to go off on a rant about that, but it's so interesting, because I have the same comments, and I always smile, and I'm like, okay, tell me exactly. Mm-hmm. And they never can. Yeah. They never, not once. And then they say, you're just a mansplainer. And I'm like, no, what? So I wouldn't be able to take care of any women then as a physician. Then why are there male gynecologists and obstetricians? Like, we wouldn't know. I would have to have every cancer to then treat anybody with cancer. And I'd have to have heart disease to treat, you know what I mean? So like, all these different things. It's like, no, I have an expertise. I've treated many people with it, and I know I have an understanding. Anyway, so it's funny that you caught crap, because I do too. Yeah. It doesn't matter.
I honestly, at some point, I kind of, not that I enjoy. Obviously, I don't enjoy people saying stuff about me, but I do like seeing the arguments, because I like seeing where people are coming from. Yeah. The whole thing when you were talking about thyroid, I remember when I was obese. Yeah. When I was obese, I would joke all the time, and I'd be like, yeah, I don't have a thyroid. Yeah. Like, but the whole reason I wanted to say that is because it's like you were explaining, people have this little tiny bit of knowledge about, it's hormones, right? And in my head, it's my thyroid. Yeah. And if someone asked me, what does that mean? I would have been like, it's my thyroid. Yeah. Or something that someone kind of brought up was the whole thought of slow metabolism, fast metabolism. Like I used to think, and another joke I would make is like, I don't have a metabolism, right? Like I would say that because I heard the word metabolism. I'm like, that's the thing that makes it so my friends can eat whatever they want and they're not fat, but I eat what I want and I'm this size, right? So I had like this little tiny bit of knowledge, and so when anyone would ask anything, I'd be like, oh, I just have a really slow metabolism. Yeah. But in reality, I was eating so much food, you know? And so when it comes to metabolism and that whole like thought of, oh, some people have fast, some people have slow, like, do you know where that kind of like started? And
well, because you're trying to explain it, it can't be as simple as you're eating too much. Because and that's also, you know, whenever I say that, people are like, oh, you're you're victim blaming, you're blaming these people. And it's like, no, we need to state facts and get things out there. It doesn't mean you're a bad person. It doesn't mean you're lazy. It doesn't mean anything. We just need awareness about this. And like, it's not necessarily your fault that you're eating too much. Mm-hmm. However, like, to just blame it on a magical, non-true, incorrect thing is ridiculous. So, you know, it's easy to say, well, my metabolism's low, so I can't help it. What's interesting, they've done studies, and because I got really into this, because I'm like, well, yeah, shouldn't genetic differences in metabolism make a big difference? And there were some earlier studies that thought that's to be the case in some of these populations, but then over time, it's like, it doesn't really predict weight gain necessarily, and it doesn't predict. It's not what causes obesity.
I think the reason that it made sense to me at 18, 19 years old was because I would see families, and it's like, oh, that whole family seems to be a little bit overweight, and then you see other families like, oh, that whole family seems to be regular weight.
Right.
But for me, it was weird because my family. This is why it like ingrained it in my head, was because my family, we ate the same foods, right? We went to McDonald's together. My mom would make food and we'd all eat the same thing. What I didn't realize, and now looking back, I can understand, is that just because like we're eating McDonald's doesn't mean we're eating the same amount of calories. Like I would get, like a normal lunch for me was 2 McDoubles, 2 McChickens, a large fry, and a large soda.
That was a lunch?
Yeah. It was a lot of food, right?
Two McDoubles,
2
just
McChickens,
like a double.
Yeah, the double, the $1. So it's all on the dollar menu. And 2 chicken sandwiches, McChickens.
Yep.
And then a large fry, and then a large drink. And I drank a lot of soda all day.
Regular soda.
Yeah.
Not diet.
I drank a 2 liter of soda at least.
Did you ever calculate how many calories that was?
Yeah, I think it was like close to 4,000. That's a lot. I think.
Yeah.
Maybe like 3,000.
I was gonna say 2,000 or 3,000 right there.
It was. Yeah. It was a lot of food. But again, like I would be with my friends that were eating at McDonald's with me, but they're eating like literally half as much food as I am. But it didn't register. So again, I'm like, it's metabolism because my friends are skinny. Like some of them were very skinny. And I didn't. But then looking back again, they skated everywhere. They were very active. They moved a lot. I think that might have been their only meal.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And for me, it was like a snack.
Yeah. And so what's interesting with the genetics of obesity, a lot of these little SNPs that we see, these little genetic components, are based in the central nervous system and control appetite. So like, and it's not just like I'm hungry, but also the differences in those with obesity. You may have some of these cravings that are a little bit more than some. You're full, but you just for some reason can fit a little bit more in. You go more towards maybe the sweeter, savory, or those what we call hyper palatable, super yummy foods a little bit more, and you have more of a propensity towards those. And that's what people don't understand. So it's not like I'm just saying you're lazy, you're just eating too much. It's like, no, that is what's going on. How do we then step back and go, okay, how do we fix this? On a population health level, is it we need to get rid of all fast food places and change the supermarkets? That starts getting into politics.
Yep.
And it's like, seriously. I don't know. I know a lot of people that are like, no. I don't want to mess with Big Brother.
Because there was that huge thing. What was it, in New York, where they banned like large sodas or something like that?
Yeah, there have been a few. In Mexico, they've tried it at all sorts of different places. Some showing some positive results, some showing nothing really. Mm-hmm. But I don't. My opinion on it is I think probably something like that would be beneficial, but man, I don't know. In education, just telling people doesn't necessarily work. on a population level. It'll work on individuals, obviously, and that's why people listening to this probably interested. I want to make this happen, and they're going to make it happen. But what about those people that just don't care, and we want to somehow help them? Can we just not help people that don't care? I don't know.
Yeah.
I have these discussions all the time, and I don't think anybody has an answer. Otherwise, we'd be doing something about it.
That's one of the hardest things I've realized with people that, and this is like I guess kind of getting into the meta, but like a lot of people, because I deal with a lot of people with the Health at Every Size movement and like that whole kind of crowd. It's turned into not just okay, I have obesity, right?
Yeah.
It's turned into that is my identity.
Yeah.
That's who I am.
Right.
And it's gotten to a point where it's like the same as this color of your skin kind of thing. And so now it's like if you say anything, it's like you basically are saying something about what makes a person, and then you get attacked for being whatever it might be, sizist or whatever the word is, right? And so it makes it hard. I'm assuming for people like you that you're like, I got into this to help people. Now these people that you're trying to help see you as like the enemy.
It's a very small because like my patients, they're all coming in, they want help, but there's these factions online, and actually it's interesting, the health at every size, their original principles are not bad. It's some of the more extremists where they're mad about the diet culture, because you see it on Instagram, right? These people that don't really need to lose weight, they're chronically dieting. They're like, I lost my period. I can't seem to lose another 5 pounds. I'm like, why are you even dieting anyway? Just like stop dieting. So you get those folks, and then you get folks that have type 2 diabetes with, some excess adiposity, some fat around their belly, and they, losing 30 pounds would probably get rid of their diabetes. Those people, they need some help and they want some help. So we don't need to be anti-diet for them. We need to be anti-diet maybe for some other people who have this body dysmorphia and all sorts of different stuff. But this is why the complexity and the nuance is important to discuss these things. So it's an interesting dichotomy there.
Yeah, I think like the reason that I'm like so passionate about doing what I do and like talking about this stuff is like, obviously I was there, and like I just remember like, and this is not me making this up, but like 20 years old was when I was at my heaviest, and I was genuinely afraid of dying. Every single day I was like, I was afraid to be alone at home, and whenever I felt any sort of pain, like in my arm or something, like, oh, it's a heart attack. And like it was just it was like I knew that I was going to die because of my size. Was that gradual, or like, because there's some people who just don't care? So that's interesting that you cared at least. Yeah, it was. I would say it was pretty gradual. Once I had graduated high school, is when I was very, very overweight all throughout. Like since I started gaining weight when I was like 6 or 7. I had a hernia. And I had to get surgery to get it removed. Okay. And then I was like bedridden. Oof. My mom used to think, oh, it's the medicine they gave you that made you gain weight. And I don't know, maybe it was, but I was like very sedentary after that for a few weeks. And that's kind of when I started gaining weight. I don't know if it's correlated or if it just kind of happened at the same time. There can be one moment that can change a lot. Yeah. And then once you it's like a positive feedback loop. And then once you gain weight, there can be some changes in the brain. There's a lot of things that can happen to where it makes you have a higher propensity towards eating those things. And I'm sure when you're young too, and everything, so much stuff is happening. Psychological thing. Yeah, absolutely. So I started gaining weight from there, and then by the time I was in like middle school, I was very, very big, and then high school I was already the biggest kid at the school, right? And but then once I graduated high school, I just like started like I literally wouldn't look in the mirror at my body. I would never look in the mirror, and then when I showered, I would just like clean off the part that would show my face, and that's it. And then so it was like I became so ashamed of myself that I didn't even like to look at myself. So it's like one of the things that I wish I had was a picture of me shirtless, because I genuinely don't remember what I looked like shirtless. I don't have any photos. I literally never looked. Even when I showered, I didn't look down, you know? And so it's like one of those things that I remember how dark it was for me. And I always try to say, I'm not saying everyone feels this way. I'm not saying everyone is the same, But I am saying this is how I felt.
Right.
And I wasn't even, like, there are people that are much bigger than I was.
Yeah.
And so, but I just remember, like, there was one time, and this is something that, like, freaked me out. I was telling my mom, I was like, oh, my feet, like, are, like, they're itching, and, like, I'm getting, like, scabs on it. I was like, it's probably just athlete's foot. And she was like, well, that could be something else, right? She was, like, kind of talking about diabetes. It freaked me out. And so I was like, in my head, because I went to the doctor when I was in 10th or 11th grade, and they basically said, I remember being happy about it, but they said, you're basically pre-diabetic. So it's like, you are going to be pre-diabetic soon. You're not there yet. But in my head, I was like, oh, cool. Like, I thought I was.
I'm good.
Like, I figured I was.
Yeah.
But then a couple years later, you know, I'm out of high school now. I was like, probably 19, I started noticing that with my foot, and it freaked me out. But again, I didn't do anything to change that.
Did doctors ever did you ever feel shame from the doctors that you saw? Because that's a big thing. We try to learn obesity sensitivity. Someone has obesity, they're not obese. And I know, you know, like,
I'm trying to get better at that.
It doesn't matter. Like, the thing is, for yourself, it's whatever. It's more of like it's try to take the identity of obesity away. It's a disease. We call it a disease. Whatever. People can get into the semantics of that, and people yell at me, but it's like, that's the way we kind of look at it. Someone's not a diabetic, they have diabetes. Someone's,
because it takes away it being your identity.
Yeah. And so anyway, did you feel shame from certain doctors?
So I went when I was in 10th or 11th grade. So my mom tricked me into going to the doctors because I didn't want to go. And then the doctor was like, he was like making these noises like,
yeah,
like that. And then the armband didn't fit on me, and it was like annoying to him. You could tell he was like bothered by it. I didn't say a single word the whole time I was there.
Why'd you have an armband?
They were like checking blood pressure, I think. Or blood,
the arm cuff.
Like
the arm cuff. Oh, okay. I was like, were you in the hospital? Because in the hospital, they put a band on or whatever.
The arm cuff thing for the blood pressure. And you could just tell he was bothered. And like, when I get upset, I don't get loud. I just shut down.
Yeah.
And so the whole time, I'm sure I wasn't helpful. It's not like I was being a cheery guy and he was just still being mean. I was being very cold.
That's, you know,
I was nervous, you know.
Yeah,
like,
it's understandable.
Yeah. And I just remember feeling horrible. And my mom even, like, she was like, I'm so sorry. Like, I didn't think it was going to go like that, you know?
Yeah.
And so, like, that was horrible. And so that's why, like, when people say doctors, there are some doctors that are mean, and like, people are like, no, I'm like, no, there's definitely are.
Oh, there's
not
so
maybe not
many.
mean, but they just have really bad.
They don't understand obesity. So like, yeah. So again, we talk about like eat less, move more, whatever. That is the treatment, but that's what the doctors will basically say. You got to go exercise and you got to start dieting, and they don't actually help you. And you're like, yeah, I already knew that. So that's, it's good to hear your story, because I'll talk about it too, and I get tons of comments from patients as well, and it also helps other doctors realize, hey, maybe I shouldn't be so, you know, wagging. That doesn't actually work. Some patients, maybe it does. Maybe it's like, you're gonna die right now. Yeah. You need to go do this now, and maybe that does scare people enough. But there are a lot of people that feel so much shame that they never want to see the doctor. They don't want to step on a scale, and like, it's interesting you're talking about. Yeah, I didn't even want to look at myself. So you already had that shame, and probably from way more than just the mirror. But you probably had many other instances, not in the doctors or at home. But for the doctor to say that, it's like, well, screw this. I don't even want to go see a doctor. They're gonna make me feel bad.
Yeah, well, because it's like, I already knew, you know what I mean? So it's like, you don't need to tell me this stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, so like, that's why when people say the doctors, like, I can relate to what people are going through, but at the same time, like, you kind of brought it up just for a second earlier when you were like, it might not be your fault that you had the weight came on, and it was like this video that Will Smith made a while ago. It might not be your fault, but it's your responsibility to lose it, right? Like, if that's something that you want to do, like, it sucks that maybe there are things in your past that led you to gaining the weight or whatever it might be, but you can't, like, once I stopped being like, oh, it's because I grew up in a really poor household. Oh, it's because I have a slow metabolism, or I don't have a thyroid, you know, the jokes that I would use, and be like, that sucks, dude, but like, you got to do something about it because no one else is going to. So once I kind of took responsibility and like stopped caring about whose fault it was, that's when I was able to actually like be like, okay, this is on me, and I can't ask anyone for help.
Yeah.
Not because like they want to help me, but it was like that's what I was doing before.
Right.
It never worked. I had a family friend of ours he tried so hard to help me lose weight. He like took me to Costco, bought me a bunch of healthy food. He would show up in the morning. He was a cop. Show up in the morning and we'd go on a mile run, like a bunch. And he tried so hard, but again, when he was gone, I did what I wanted because again, it wasn't my decision. And so once I was like, I can't rely on other people to do this for me. I can't like be like, oh, I just need to try this or that. It was like, you just need to work.
Yeah.
You know, and like that, once I started to really realize that's when I was actually able to see change. And that's why, and it was so much more gratifying, and like, because I did it myself. I wasn't doing what XYZ person told me.
Yeah.
And like for me, at least, that was a really helpful thing.
It's interesting because, you know, you talked about at the beginning, like how you just accepted the plane ride, right? Mm-hmm. You just like, well, I can't change this. So like there's something called acceptance-based therapy, and it actually has a good benefit on those with obesity, with weight loss outcomes. And it's basically accepting that, yes, these types of foods are not going to be as yummy as whatever the McDonald's. I mean, like the way you described the, you know, 2 McChickens and 2 McDoubles and a large fry and the soda. So it's like, so yeah, you eventually started eating whatever for lunch. Maybe we can talk about that. But the thought of acceptance-based therapy is that you accept that some of these foods aren't going to be as absolutely amazing. They're not going to taste horrible.
Yeah.
But you accept that, and because they align with what you value, and what you value, you know, isn't necessarily like losing weight, but it's what happens after losing weight, like being there for your kids or being able to grow a little bit older and think, like you were worried about dying, so you valued obviously living, which is interesting because some people don't necessarily value that as much.
Absolutely.
So I would be interested in how to, because I see this in a lot of those who have been extremely successful, such as yourself. There was a point to where you realize you have to work, and you realize it's on you. If I could go and lift weights and eat a certain way for my patients, I wish I could sometimes, and I can't. So at some point you accepted that, yeah, it may not be my fault that I'm with these genetics that have this amazing appetite, insatiable cravings, but I have to accept that this is, you know, my life, and I'm the only one that can do anything about it. So it's interesting because I wish I could instill that in everybody.
Yeah.
And obviously you do too, otherwise you wouldn't be doing this.
Yeah. Like a lot of times I do Q&As all the time, and I get questions of people basically that it seems like they just haven't gotten there yet of the acceptance thing. Like they'll ask me questions that I'm like, why are you stressed about that right now? Like, oh, I don't like, I want to lose weight, but I don't like vegetables. There's something so random. And I'm just like, well, like you might have to eat vegetables, you know, or if you really hate, like, don't worry about that right now.
Yeah.
But it's like they're stressing about these like little things, and I can just tell that they haven't like truly accepted what they have to do.
Yeah.
Or the really popular one is, I want to lose 100+ pounds, but I'm afraid of loose skin. When I hear that, I'm just like, tough luck. Like it's gonna happen, you know, like it's just part of it. So if you'd rather have the weight than lose skin, that's your choice, obviously. But like, if you want to lose the weight, there is, and I mean, I shouldn't speak in absolutes, but there is no way that you're not going to have it if you're losing over 100 pounds. Like, and if you want to trust these people that are putting stuff out there that say that you can do this diet or that diet, I mean, we can talk about it maybe, but like that'll make it so you don't have loose skin. Like one of them is fasting.
Yeah.
Like, if you just fast 1 day on, 1 day off, or even like crazier ones that it's like water fast for 3 months or something crazy like that, you won't have loose skin. I'm like, it's a lie. I truly don't believe it.
No.
And that's my own thing.
It's ridiculous.
Like, and so it's frustrating because people think and again, it's that diet, right? That fasting diet for 3 months. And like, that might sound crazy to people, but there are people that have done this. Only drank water with like certain electrolytes and certain things, but like pretty much only drink water for months at a time. I made a video about a guy that did it.
Yeah,
He's actually a really nice dude.
Yeah.
He was a really cool guy, and you could tell he was just trying to lose weight. But like that is so extreme and so unnecessary for people to do, and it's because they're trying to avoid like loose skin, which it's really like I've talked about it so much, but it's like it's really not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Like dealing with loose skin versus dealing with the 180 extra pounds, it's like it's night and day. It doesn't even compare. And I wish people would just see that. And for me, when I see someone that has that, like, are hung up on that, I'm just like, well, you're just not ready.
Yeah.
Like you're looking for excuses. For me, there was nothing. Like it was like, I'm ready to do this.
Yeah.
I don't care what it takes. And I mean, that actually led me to a kind of an unhealthy path with my diet.
Oh.
And like I dealt with binge eating for a while
Yeah.
because it was like, I need to eat as little as possible.
Yeah.
The less calories, the better. The smaller the number, the better.
Yeah.
And then I would, do that for 3 days, eat 700 calories, and then binge like crazy.
Which is what happens to the people that, the reason they can't lose weight when they're eating too little.
Exactly.
Sorry to go back to that,
Exactly.
but when, and in fact, I've seen this now with like 20 different patients who said they think they're eating too little. They don't understand their metabolism. I've gotten metabolic cards on these people, and I've did the full workup of biochemical tests that you can do. Everything's stark normal, and they say they're eating 1,200 calories or whatever it is. It's not 12. It could be whatever.
That's always the number.
It's always
that's
the
used,
number.
yeah.
I don't know why, for some reason. And eventually, a year or two later, they come back and say, you know what? You've talked about binge eating before. I'm doing it. And I'm always like, I knew you were, but I couldn't say it because, and I try to allude to it. I'm like,
Gosh,
sometimes
that has to be so hard, man.
it is hard because like, you don't want to.
I deal with it with a little bit, you know what I mean, online, but it's like
Yeah.
if someone's having that issue, I usually just like, this isn't, like, I'm sorry, I want to help, but like,
I use medicines, for it,
Yeah.
but cognitive behavioral therapists that are good at it. You can't just go to some, cognitive behavioral therapist that doesn't know how to do it. They have to know. And then I use medicines for it, and it helps really well. But you take the focus off of the weight loss. Take something about the obsession can sometimes trigger that, the black and white thinking. It's an interesting phenomenon, but there's help out there if you need it.
Yeah, binge eating is definitely something that I think a lot of people are struggling with, and they don't really realize it.
Yeah.
Because it's that thought and that's why I'm so against, eating these really low calorie things, because like low calorie diets, because again, I always say they're gonna work.
Yeah.
Like if you're eating 500 calories a day, you are going to lose weight.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, it's going to happen. The goal though for you should be to lose weight and to keep it off for hopefully the rest of your life, right? Like that's, I'm assuming, what people want. So when you are eating these super low calorie diets, usually something's going to give. And a lot of times before you maybe completely fall off the wagon, which, I mean, a lot of people kind of just fall off and then they just go back to eating whatever they want. A lot of people, myself, this is what I struggled with. It was, I would eat the really low calorie diet for a few days and then I would binge, and I was like stuck at the same weight forever. And people don't realize like how this is again, I'm kind of jumping all over the place. This is why I'm not the biggest fan of like cheat days, because like people don't realize how much, I don't want to say damage, but how many calories you can eat in a day. Like it's unbelievable, even in one meal. Like for me, like on a binge, it was always at night. Like I only ever binged at night before I went to sleep.
Yeah, that's the most common.
Mm-hmm. And so I would eat, like, seriously, it could go upwards of 5,000 to 7,000 calories.
What was it like? What would you eat?
A lot of times it was like healthy foods, but it was like just so much of it. Like I would eat like oatmeal, and then I would eat like one time I remember I ate a whole box. It's not healthy, but like a whole box of just Rice Chex cereal, like the plain one, but like with no milk, just ate it dry. And I just remember like after I was done eating that, I was just like, why did I do that? Like I didn't even want that.
Yeah.
And I remember that was the time when I was like, this is not okay. Like this is scary. Like it was kind of crazy. Like because I would go into, because it was always go into the kitchen, grab stuff, go back into my room. Like that's the last time I didn't eat it, and I'd sit there for like 3 minutes, go back into the kitchen, grab some more stuff, come back in my room, and it would just, and it would be like 1 a.m.
What was the feeling? Was it like an itch you needed to scratch?
Yeah, it was like. I've explained it on the channel a couple times, but it was like I could feel it coming on for a few days.
Okay.
Like it felt like there was like this person like you know how when you feel like you have someone watching you? That's how it felt. It was like okay, I can hold it off for a couple more days. But like it was like almost in the middle of the day that I would binge, I knew it was going to happen that night. It was like it was like I have no power against it.
That's what a lot of people describe literally the same thing.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
And then it's like that horrible cycle of, okay, I binged last night. I'm not going to eat anything today, or I'm going to eat one time. And then, so that's why when people are like, oh, I binged, what should I do? I'm like, don't try and fix it.
Yeah.
Because that's what I did. And that's how I started the cycle. And it was, luckily it didn't last for a super long time. It was maybe 6 months, maybe a little bit longer. But I remember at that point, I was terrified I was going to gain my weight back.
Okay.
Because I felt out of control.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things when people ask me now is like, aren't you afraid of gaining the weight back? And I'm like, now, no. There's absolutely no way I'll gain it back. And I really do believe that. Like, even if like people are like, well, what if you get injured and you can't work out? I'm like, I'll figure it out. Like, I might have a little bit of a spike because I can't move anymore and I need to figure things out. But like, I really think that I would never get back to being that size because of just like, I would have to start drinking a ton of calories, which is something I don't think I'll ever do again, really, unless I'm like going to get like a fancy coffee or something like that, But like, other than that, I'm not going to sit there and order a Coke. Like, I just wouldn't do that. And that's where a lot of my calories came from when I was at my heaviest, was just liquid sugar, basically. And that's something I'll never do now. But like, I felt so out of control at that point that I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do. Now I don't feel out of control. I feel I'm actually have probably the healthiest relationship with food that I've had in a long time.
That's good.
And just like with weight in general, and like we were talking, so that I had that flight today, right?
Yeah.
When I fly, I retain a lot of water. So I weighed myself today just because I like to see. I'm just like always curious because I knew I felt like a water buffalo today, and I weighed 217. Right. And so normally I'm like 207, 205. Okay. So like I'm interested to see how much I weigh maybe like tomorrow morning or something like that. But like that before would have freaked me out seeing that number. Now I'm just like, oh, okay. Yeah, it's kind of funny. Like it makes me laugh because like I looked at my ankles this morning. I was like, woo, those are thick today.
See that relationship with this. So I have patients that I don't know how to get through to them that like, it's just a number on the scale. It's nothing. Mm-hmm. It's nothing. But it's easy for me to say that, and I can't get into their minds exactly. I have some training in the cognitive behavioral therapy and trying to understand it, but it's still, in some patients I can help them get over it. Some people it's just they freak out over the scale. You've figured it out.
The scale, I think growing up it was always like a scary thing because it always was going up, and that was always bad, right?
Yeah.
Like that's what I saw it as bad. I remember the first time I saw 200 pounds, I was in like middle school, and I was just like, I remember I didn't want to step on a scale ever again after I saw that. I couldn't believe that I was over 200 pounds. And it was like, I remember the day that it happened, it was like in the kitchen, we had a scale in there for some reason, like just kind of, it was just there. And I stepped on it, and I don't think anyone was around, but when I saw the number, like my heart just leapt. Like it started beating really hard, and I was like, I hope no one saw me step on it, and they asked me how much I weigh, because it was like, it was bad, right? Like, oh, you are too heavy. And like growing up, I wanted to play football, like Pop Warner. I was too heavy for that. Like I was already over 200 pounds. That was the weight limit. So it was like my weight was always bad. So I think it's just like your whole life, that's bad. Yeah. That number's bad. And so it's just like what, at least for me, it was that number always correlated with bad feelings. Yeah. So that's why.
A lot of shame around it.
Shame, yeah, exactly. But now I truly do see it as just a number. It's just a tool. Yeah. And that's why like when people, they're like, oh, throw away the scale. I'm like, well, I mean, if that helps you, then yes. But it's like, it's not an evil thing. Yeah. And we shouldn't treat it like that. Yeah,
ideally, you would get over it. Again, easier said than done. But I'm with you on that. If somehow you can figure out it's just a tool. Because, like, honestly, there would be a point if you lost a lot of weight, you can use it as a way to go, all right, I have this gauge to go, like, if I'm starting to creep up over this, I need to figure out how to rein it in a little bit. But if it freaks you out and it makes you worse, and that's something we got to figure out how to deal with.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because you don't hear the same kind of like mantra against taking measurements. You know what I mean? Like throw away the tape measure or throw away the mirror. You never hear that stuff. It's just interesting. The scale has turned into this villain for a lot of people. And I think, again, it's just for a lot of people maybe my age and probably I'm assuming even older, like it became this like evil thing. You always felt a lot of shame around it.
Yeah.
So
That's an I appreciate your story, because what you described is very similar to tons of my patients describe, but it's your own story, and you somehow figured out how to overcome it all.
And I think that's why it's interesting to talk about this stuff, is because everyone that struggles with their weight, they feel like they're the only one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm the only one that has this story. I'm the only one that sat in a chair and broke it. I'm the only one that is afraid to go to restaurants because I might not fit in the tables.
Yeah.
Or I'm the only one that, went to the amusement park and almost couldn't fit in a ride or couldn't fit in a ride. And like, it's like, nah, everyone that's your size probably has the same story, but no one wants to talk about it. No one wants to talk about it, and I'm guilty of this, but like no one wants to talk about it until after they've lost the weight.
Yeah.
Because the shame is gone now.
So much shame.
And so again, like I'm part of that crew. You know, I didn't like to talk about that stuff because it was embarrassing. You know, but now it's less embarrassing because I am no longer struggling with those things.
Yep.
You know, so I don't know. It's just interesting. Another question. We kind of talked about this a little bit before we started talking about like caloric deficits, and obviously, I think both of us agree that like you need to be in a deficit to lose weight. But then the question that I almost always get is how much of a deficit?
Yeah.
And I believe, and if you disagree, totally I'm excited to hear that. But like I believe that the deficit depends on the person.
Yeah.
And so it depends on the amount of size, the amount of weight that you're trying to lose. Like if you're talking about Sally that wants to lose 15 pounds, her deficit is going to be drastically different than Steve that is trying to lose 250 pounds.
Right.
Because like when I talk to people, I usually say, you know, track your TDE. And again, this is just basic information. It's not perfect, but I'm like, this is where I started from, right? Find out your TDEE, which is your total daily energy expenditure. And that's easier said than done too, because it's like, it's hard to be very honest with yourself or no, but it's like, okay, I burn 3,000 calories a day. Okay, and then I usually say from there maybe subtract 500 calories. But again, I know that's not perfect advice, but I can't. It's not specific to anybody because again, if you're talking about Steve that's trying to lose 200 pounds, his deficit of 500 calories, he still might be eating 3,500 calories or 3,000 calories. It's like he doesn't need to be eating that much. So I'm usually like, the more weight you have to lose, the more of a deficit maybe you can be in. But again, like I struggle with that because I don't want people to think that more deficit equals better.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
There is a point of diminishing returns, and there have been lots of trials looking at this, whether you should go a little bit faster. In the end, it doesn't. It depends on the person. The studies show that actually people that lose weight faster in the beginning tend to have more success in the long run.
Because you're excited to see the progress kind of thing?
That's part of it. I think that's probably the main part of it. So like,
because I lost my weight very fast.
Yeah, and
I lost my weight in about a year and a half.
And so what's interesting, do you sometimes go back and go, God, I wish I would have lost it slower? Do you ever think that?
I feel that way just because it was the binge eating that I struggled with. Okay. I was like, it's hard though because like as cheesy as it sounds, like everything that I did led me to where I am now.
I know, it was your journey. I know.
You know, and like I do, like that's why I say, don't do what I did. Listen to what I learned from and do that. But at the same time, that's why I'm like, it's okay if you're losing weight kind of fast. Yeah. But I think that there's like like you were saying, like there's a crossroads where it's like, this is too much. Yeah. Like the show The Biggest Loser is like the best example I can think of is like, that's not probably we've seen.
I don't even know how anybody, like, because they're not only starving themselves, but they're also doing extensive amounts of cardio all day just to win a prize. And so, you got these studies. I'm friends with one of the researchers that looked at their metabolic rates.
Yeah, because like it's crazy. That whole study was insane.
And so, and like you don't see that in other regular weight loss trials. There were a few examples. You know, it's not like it's a large enough trial to give us substantial amount of information. Nobody does this in real life the way that they do it. So anyway, so it's hard to exactly know what's going on there. But really the gist of it is, and what's funny, you said that because you're like, I just want people to know how I did it so that they can maybe change some of these things. But what you describe when I have a few patients, how much did you lose? 180, right? 180. 180 to 200 or more pounds of my patients, they did very similar. And I don't want to tell you that you should lose weight faster, because I have had some successful 100 or more pound losers who did, 3 months at a time, 3 month break, 3 months at a time, 3 month break. They did it what we'd consider maybe the right way to do it. But honestly, it just depends on the person.
That takes a lot of discipline. Like that hearing that is so impressive to me.
Yeah.
Because like it was like going all in, just like straight down.
So the scientific way to look at this is it's all relative. It's about 1% to 1.5% of your weight per week. Mm-hmm. And we should probably get rid of the first week or so. That's like huge water. So I used to run an extreme weight loss type of challenge type of thing. I was trying to actually induce this. I was trying to use marketing. It's a really funny story, because I was trying to use marketing to go, you're going to lose up to 30 pounds in a month. Mm-hmm. And that's really, the 30 pounds is for those that are like 400, 400 or so pounds.
Which is totally doable.
10 pounds in a week. And so what's funny is I'd get a lot of these patients or, people, they weren't necessarily my patients. Some of them were, who they're 400 pounds. They'd lose, the 10 pounds in a week, and then they'd lose about 30 pounds in a month. And then I'd get, like you said, Sally, 150 pounds, just wants to lose 5 to 10 pounds. Mm-hmm. They'd end up losing like 5 or 10 pounds in a month, but then would be disappointed because then they compared their weight loss to Joe, who lost like 30, sometimes like 35. I don't even know. It was, but a lot of it's not possible. It's all relative. So 1 to 1.5% of your body weight per week. Again, that first week is going to be water. And you start going faster than that, you are at risk for things like gallstones and whatever. But that's like the scientific way. People will say, lose a pound per week. Well, it's like, no, it depends on your relative body size. Now, and you can go faster when you have a lot more fat to lose. You're not at as much risk of losing muscle. And yes, some people say, but your metabolic rate will slow. And it's true. No matter what, when you diet, your metabolic rate does go slightly down. When you lose body, it doesn't matter if it's muscle or fat, your metabolism does go down. The trick is where people talk about the metabolic adaptations, which means that your metabolism goes down further than what we predict using these equations. And it seems to be those who lose faster tend to have a little bit more adaptations, but then it's like, well, those people are a little bit more successful. So is it possible that losing the weight faster did play a role in the motivation to like say, hey, look, I can do this. I see a light at the end of the tunnel. There may be some differences in appetite, though, when you're losing weight faster. It's possible that at a faster, a lower caloric intake, you have paradoxically a better appetite. You get some, maybe because of the ketones that are there, you get a little bit more of an appetite suppression than if you're going at a slight deficit. It's hard to know exactly, but I will say that, yeah, I wouldn't go and just say, I'm going to water fast and just see how fast I can do this. I would set your deficit a little bit more aggressively if you don't have issues with, if you have a poor relationship with food, don't try to go fast. If you've tried to do this, like, these are for the people that like, you know what, I've never really tried to diet really before.
No, that was me.
And so yeah.
I had like the most weight I had lost before I did this was maybe 15 pounds.
Yeah.
And like that was with that guy that I was telling you about that like would come to my house. You know what I mean? So like I would like truly thought I can't.
Yeah.
Because I never really tried. And so like 100%, that's exactly where I was. Like my relationship with food was just I ate whatever I wanted. Yeah. It wasn't like I've dieted, lost 50 pounds and gained it back. Never struggled with that.
So these people that have told me like I've lost weight quickly in the past, and I'm like, you know what? Let's not try to go as aggressively. Let's set the deficit to where you are losing maybe more like 0.5% to up to 1%, not that percent or even a little bit more per week. And let's make sure that whatever we're doing, we're getting you a good relationship around food. Let's get these healthy habits. Let's understand that this is going to probably take 1 year to 2 years. I don't know how long it took you to lose the 180 pounds. How long?
It was like a year and probably a year and a half.
Yeah,
the last 20 took a very long time.
See, isn't that amazing? So like people go, I want to lose this now. And I know this is so cliche. It didn't take you it took you way longer to gain the weight. Why do you think it's going to,
It's true though.
But everybody thinks the same thing. So it's like really hammering it home. This is going to be a 1 to 2 year process if you have that much weight to lose. If it's more like 50 pounds, you can do that a lot sooner. And really establishing going like, look, there will be times where you're going to plateau, or we're going to just say, hey, before that even happens, let's take a diet break. Let's work on maintenance, meaning you're going to be able to increase your calories just a little bit. We'll monitor your weight as long as you have a fine relationship with the scale, and we make sure to ingrain that early on, so you're not in it is a problem because they're going to see there's the scale shift up and down. And it can be scary, but if you just go, look, it is going to shift up and down. Get the app Happy Scale or whatever, Libra. There's a few different ones out there that adjust for these oscillations in your weight. And let's focus on increasing your calories a little bit, maintain for a few months, and then let's hit it hard again. That's an option. Some people just go, screw it, I'm just going to lose it over the course of whatever,
a year or whatever,
18 mile, whatever you did. And that's an option too.
I think the whole like lose a little, maintain. I think that like that sounds really interesting to me, just because a lot of people, obviously we know that, struggle with maintaining. Like people can lose weight, like obviously, but it's like maintaining that. So like having someone almost do like mini maintenance phases in the course of them losing weight, it can show them, I can stay at this weight. It's possible.
Absolutely. Now, whether that actually works in the long run, we'd have to do. There are no big long RCTs. The one, if anybody's interested in the academics of this, there's the Look Ahead trial is the one that we get a lot of information from, and I think it was published in 2013, but it had a large cohort of high cardiovascular risk diabetic patients with diabetes, and one group. Very intensive intervention with like 1,200 to 1,800 calories and exercise, multiple meetings per month, and really just like hammering in like, this is how you eat, behavioral therapy, all sorts of stuff. Then the other group was kind of standard of care. And we get a lot of good information. The people that lost the fastest, the people that used more meal replacements, and the people that went to more meetings tend to be the most successful. If you didn't lose that much weight in the first month or two, you weren't successful, meaning you probably weren't going to adhere, meaning you weren't probably going to be successful. But yeah, it's a very interesting thing. I think it's individual, and I kind of assessed for that, and so everybody's going to have their own journey. Is really what it comes down to.
Yeah, this has been really fun. I do want to ask about one thing.
Oh yeah.
And now this is just someone actually, I put a Q&A on my Instagram, and someone like asked about this, and I'm actually curious because it's been picking up quite a bit of steam, and I'm just curious as to like maybe why you think it is and maybe your thoughts on it. So the carnivore diet.
Oh yeah.
It to me, I've always, and now this is just my own personal thought, like I've never been the biggest fan of keto for weight loss.
Yeah.
Like I have my own thoughts on that. I think it's a little too extreme for most people to maintain. Those are my thoughts because I love bread. Like that's honestly mainly the reason.
You're addicted. You're addicted to bread.
I'm addicted to bread. But I honestly just don't think that it's necessary. That's kind of really where it's coming from. But then carnivore, it like takes it to another extreme.
Let's go more extreme.
Yeah. So like, why do you think that's kind of been? Because again, it was. I felt like I saw it a while ago, and it was like helping people that had like inflammation issues and like autoimmune issues. Processes. And it seems like that's what kind of keto was too. It was like I think it was people that were struggling with seizures, right? It was when it first started.
Yeah, I mean
popular.
that's what one of the therapeutic benefits of it.
And then it was like for other things, and then people kind of started adopting it for weight loss. And it seems like keto is kind of, or carnivore is taking that same kind of steps to. I'm seeing a lot of people use it for weight loss. Yeah. Like what are your general thoughts on that?
So my general thoughts are that it's going to work. It's highly restrictive. If you're only eating meat and you're eating
maybe eggs too,
eggs, highly restrictive. Your calories are going to go so you're not going to be eating those foods that make you want to eat more and more. The McDoubles and the McChickens and the French fries and the soda, you won't have that.
Yeah.
think about how much of the actual meat. There's only so much meat that you can eat. It's hard to eat a lot. And yes, it can be highly caloric if you're eating ribeyes and whatever. But still, there's only so much. I want to eat the French fries with it. I want to eat.
Like who's eating like a 28-ounce steak?
Yeah,
probably,
I mean, and you could, but you're going to be full. I mean,
Yeah.
especially once you start adapting.
Just like hearing that, like my heart starts hurting.
Yeah, and when you go into a kind of this nutritional ketosis, not so where your pathologic levels of these ketones in your blood, there, especially for some individuals, there's an individual appetite suppression. It's not for everybody, and there's a lot of literature coming out, tons of studies trying to be done. Some people just feel they're like, I don't feel like I need to eat. Some people like it doesn't really change that insatiable craving that you kind of discussed, that some of my patients discuss. So honestly, if you go from a standard American diet of, like the McDonald's, like you discussed, and you go to a carnivore diet, you're going to lose a lot of weight. And if you stick to it, you're going to keep it off. But like you said, it's just not practical for most people. If you compare that to a more kind of a plant-based type of lower calorie diet, you're probably going to find in whole food plant-based, not like an Oreo.
Gardein chicken nuggets all the time or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing, because you in fact, there's studies looking at, a highly processed, like vegan, whole, the plant-based diet is probably worse for you than anything, because you're just all processed crap. Yeah. And it's not necessarily, I'm not saying processed foods are bad or whatever. I'm just saying that
if that's all you're eating, probably not.
It's highly caloric, highly palatable, low nutrient density, whatever. So I would if we could compare a carnivore purely like meat and in some of these carnivore definitions, some eggs, you compare that to a more like whole food plant-based diet that's lower calories. I suspect, and again, we don't have a randomized trial to show this, I suspect based on the data we have that the lower calorie whole food plant-based diet will lead to healthier outcomes. However, again, everybody's individual, so there may be people that are just like, I feel bloated, I don't feel well, and that's what the carnivores describe. Like when they eat vegetables, they feel bloated. And there's multiple, we could get some other people on the podcast that can talk about GI health and stuff like that. But there are real things about certain carbohydrate-containing foods that cause bloating.
Yeah, there's some for me that definitely.
Yeah, so you understand. So like if that happens with like tons of things that they eat and they just don't like them per se, and they just for some reason like to eat a carnivore diet, it's they're anecdotes. These are case studies right now. I think it needs to be studied because, the worry is things like scurvy. And I see these people, Dr. Sean Baker, he's my friend. He's the guy he's like the big doctor that really pushes the idea. True meathead. He's an orthopedic surgeon, big guy. He's like 6'5". And he's a carnivore. And the funny thing, the most meatheads that go into medicine go into orthopedics. So it's I joke with them. I'm like, you're literally a meathead. You're a big, strong guy. You're an orthopod, and now you're a carnivore. You can't even get more meathead than you. But I don't know. I don't know if there have been case reports of the scurvy. They think that there's something with it where you're getting all the nutrients. I don't know. Honestly, I would never recommend it unless a patient said, I want to do this, help me do it. And I'd help them do it. But it's not something I'd blanketly recommend. And I likely, if you're comparing it to a well thought out, more plant-based, it doesn't matter if it's lower carb, higher carb, low fat, whatever, but lower calorie, nutrient dense, plant-based type of diet, I would say that the plant-based is going to be much more healthful in the long run. Again, we need studies to confirm that, but based on the data we have, I'd say that.
Yeah, I think like when I hear about like carnivore a lot of the diets that people like to go on to try and lose weight, I think it's the mindset that people have going into it that is either going to help or hurt them. So if the mindset is I want to learn everything about this diet, I want to understand it, and I really think this might be helpful, again, this is my own just anecdotal experience, like they tend to do better with it.
Yeah.
Like I have some friends that are very big into keto, and when I talk to them, they know everything about the keto, but they're also not like keto is for everyone and everyone should do it, right? But then there are the other people that hear about it and they're like, that's it. That's the magic bullet. That's the thing that's going to solve everything for me. And from what I've seen, when people are going down that path, they're just hoping it's going to be the thing that fixes everything. usually it doesn't end well.
Yeah.
You know? And so like that's what it seems like. There are some people, some of my friends again, that are very into carnivore. They do a lot of research on it. They seem to understand it, and they do their due diligence a lot more. And the other people that just want to watch like a couple YouTube videos, and then they think that this is the thing that's going to solve all their problems. And it's just crazy to me because it seems like it's like we talk about the pendulum swinging a lot on my podcast, and like for like it seems like last year or in the year before it was like veganism was really huge. Everyone was talking about it, which is great, fine, whatever. But like it's literally gone to the other side, and it's honestly from like 30,000 feet away, right? Taking a step back, it's kind of funny.
Yeah,
because it's just like it's just so obvious that it was here and now it's here.
Yeah,
and it's just so, it really is kind of funny to me. And like I remember when I first heard it, I was like, "There's no way people are doing this, like eating just meat," but there are.
Yeah, lots.
Seriously, and it's more and more every single day.
Yeah,
it's just interesting. So I wanted to ask.
Yeah, and to me, it's like, all right, you understand the risks. As long as you understand the risks, now let's step back. Let's actually like study you. Let's kind of follow you along. That's my thing. Yeah. I'm kind of intellectually interested because it's like, well, I wouldn't do it, and I'm not going to recommend my patients do it. But if you guys are doing it, let's follow along and just kind of see. Mm-hmm. And if there's something to it, fine. I'm all ears, but probably not.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Thanks for being on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.